Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing questions concerning this watch. Today we're discussing a fascinating window into the pre-modern era of Arnold Son, the period between 1995 and 2010 when it was owned by the British Masters, which also owned Graham and Tourbillon. Sold in 2010 to lug-to-lug, Arnold Son, along with lug-to-lug, acquired by Citizen Group in 2012. This is a watch that predates all of that, using a movement supplied by Christophe Claret. It's the same tourbillon caliber found in the Harry Winston Opus 2, so quite a pedigree here. In white gold, this is a 10-piece limited edition that is 41 millimeters, actually 41.5 millimeters in diameter as I measure it. So 41.5 in diameter, it's 13.4 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip, 50.3 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. So the timepiece on my wrist is substantial because of these pastille-style lugs, similar to Breguet, Chrono Swiss, for example. It wears like a larger watch. It's really more like wearing a 43, so think of it as a 43. I believe you could wear this watch on a wrist my size or larger, and once again, my wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. There's your over-the-top, there's your cuff shot. It's actually not that thick. With a domed bezel, this elaborate dress complication will fit underneath the dress cuff. The strap is luxurious, you can see. It's a Jean Rousseau piece. It's made of calfskin on the bottom, large rectangular symmetrical scale alligator leather on the top, always indicative of a high quality cut of the animal, matte finished black. You can see we have a folded edge, a monotone stitch, and Jean Rousseau making the OEM straps for, among others, De Bethune and F. Pigeon, so we like to use these straps. You can see that we have a lug system that's joined using screws and bars. This is a much more rugged and durable system than spring bars. It's also less prone to accidents, and I like to see it on a heavy, complicated, and expensive watch like this. You can also see that we've got a rather elaborate buckle. It's counterweighted evenly and includes a combination of faceting, satination, and polish. An interesting choice. And you can see on the underside, it is white gold, just like the rest of the watch. A note on this white gold. This is rhodium-plated white gold, and there are some places you could see a little bit of a warmer tone, particularly on the case back compared to top side. And so this movement in this watch, a fascinating hand and glove fit as they're the perfect size, but just outside the periphery of the movement, you could start to see that we've got a little bit of a yellowing. This is the color of white gold without rhodium. And so you could see from just being on the wrist over the decades, this watch has lost a little bit of the rhodium, and you have this natural patina that occurs on rhodium-plated white gold. And I recommend leaving it like this. We didn't refinish the watch. We want to leave it as it was originally created. It's sort of like leaving little scratches and scuffs on a watch and keeping all the metal and the original definition of the case lines. That's how we prefer to treat a watch like this, which is now borderline vintage. We have welded lug construction, where you can see that the lugs have been welded to the case. This is a very slow and laborious method of making a case by hand. It's also the traditional way, and I love to see it because it means that the case is as handcrafted as the rest of the watch. The crown, the dial. Okay, so what's going on here? 3 true time zones. Obviously, you've got the one at center, but you've also got 2 separate that's set independently. There's a little pusher adjuster for one of the 24-hour secondary time zones, and then there's another one. So you've got 3 time zones independently displayed. A lovely rosette guilloche. We have white gold hands, as well as a few stub indices. Not a whole lot of indices here, but the guilloche work is very nice. You can also see that the dial has incredible depth. Now, this base movement is called the Christophe Claret CCR 97, and yes, you will find it on, among others, the Harry Winston Opus 2. You can always pick it out by the distinctive tourbillon cage shape, and it is a beautiful tourbillon cage, mirror finished to the highest degree. You can see that there are 2 polished columns on which the bridge for the tourbillon rests, and that the bridge has been fully mirrored and rounded. Very difficult to do from a finishing standpoint. You can also see tight concentric engine turning on the base plate, polished screw heads on both the anchors for the bridge and the tourbillon assembly itself. And then if you look, you can see that the movement is actually held up using polished pillars. This is a pillar movement, just like a vintage marine chronometer. Now, another interesting feature is that this movement was designed for tourbillon watches that had complete open dials. So they went out of their way to hide the winding system of the watch. If you look at the base of the dial, you can see that as I wind the watch, the ring gear that winds the barrel is visible, but it's not visible from the front. So the idea is that you have this completely unobstructed view without any of the winding gear visible. Now on the reverse side, you can see the movement is quite nicely decorated and architected. You can see limited edition. They made 10 pieces. This is number 8. Holt head screws, better known as the choice of F. Pigeon. And then the movement with beautiful beveling, engine turning on the base plate, satination on the wheels, the bridges with lovely stripes, and it is gorgeous in its decoration and properly sized for this case. 5 position adjusted, the chronometer standard 26 pivot joules, beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour with a 110-hour power reserve. Now, truth in advertising, there are some small marks on some parts of the movement, so I just want to acknowledge that those are there. The condition is excellent. There are some little marks featuring what are perhaps small pieces of debris from prior service. So again, I just want you to know exactly the state of this watch as we have it. Cleaning, oiling, and adjustment would remove that, leaving this movement immaculate and quite a buy, all things considered, given that the Harry Winston Opus featuring the exact same movement goes for hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can also see that there's some beautiful partridge eye beveling with these polished recesses in the sinks for the pivot joules and lovely beveling and satination on the steel parts of the movement. It is simply gorgeous. You could see those elements in action right there. And look at the delicate extended springs for these pusher adjuster systems for the secondary time zone. Just a thrill to watch in action and a beautiful watch in every regard. A very rare one, the first I've seen and probably the last I'll see. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.